Where Bhutan can play a role is in our leadership. Not our political leadership, but the leadership of our kings. I think they are truly inspirational. And our leadership can be role models to the world. Whether it is in terms of democracy or fighting climate change or supporting social welfare, our kings have done it all. Gross domestic product, gross national product. If you think of them as taking stock of a country's wealth, I like to think of gross national happiness, or GNH, as a way of taking stock of a country's happiness. Gross national happiness is the development philosophy in our country. It was introduced by our first king, His Majesty Jigme Singye Wangchuk. And in summary, what gross national happiness is that the purpose of development is the happiness and well-being of our people through sustainable economic growth, but economic growth that is equitable and sustainable, and which is balanced with social progress, environmental protection, cultural preservation, and good governance. It begins with quality education, an education that is wholesome and mindful of the values of gross national happiness. So it starts at a very young age. But ultimately, children, our youth, need jobs. And for that, we have to expand our economy. There's no two ways about it. We have to grow our economy. But in doing so, we have to be mindful again of the ideals of gross national happiness that require us to keep our economy sustainable. Environmentally sustainable. Yes, it should be financially sustainable too, but environmentally sustainable. And our economy should not come into conflict with our culture and good governance and the environment, as I mentioned. So that is a big challenge. So how do we do this? Our focus should be investing in our children, like all over the world. But when we invest in our children, it is to improve the quality of their education. That education should be wholesome, with the values and principles of gross national happiness imbibed from a very young age. And as they complete their schools and enter the workforce, there should be meaningful jobs available for them. Bhutan has the unique distinction of being probably the only country in the world where the introduction of democracy was not through bloodshed and war. Instead, it was a very peaceful transition. People didn't have to fight against a ruling elite for democracy. Rather, our king, an absolute king, loved by his people, imposed democracy on our people. So when I say impose democracy on our people kept pleading with our king, please, we don't want democracy. We've seen what democracy can do in the world, in the region, and we don't want to deal with democracy. And besides, why do we need change when everything is so good in our country? When there's so much hope in our country, when there's so much peace and security and stability in our country, we don't want democracy. Our king was insistent that it is not just for now, but it's also for the future. Looking at the future, we must build democratic institutions now. And so he insisted that the people must accept democracy. Everywhere else in the world, political parties start because they claim to have an ideal. They claim to have a vision. They claim to know where to take their country and their people. And they claim that the existing status quo is not good enough. And therefore, they are going to take their country and their people to a better place. In Bhutan, everything was turned upside down because we who started political parties, we did not have any such claim. We did not have any such vision of a better place. In fact, the people of Bhutan, including politicians and political parties, We believed that the status quo was just fine. Yet, we had to start political parties. And so even the way we establish political parties in Bhutan is quite unique. I was shocked to find out that Bhutan was the only carbon neutral country in the world. I was shocked because I would imagine that before the Industrial Revolution, every country in the world must have been carbon neutral. What happened in the last century? What happened so that we have only one country that's carbon neutral? So today, Bhutan, we are heavily carbon negative in a sense that we absorb like 3 times more carbon than we emit. How is that possible? The reason is, number one, because of our forest cover. We have huge, pristine forests. 70% of our country is under forest cover, and it is actually growing. So they obviously absorb a lot of carbon dioxide. The second, and it's related to our forest cover, is we have green electricity produced from hydropower. 100% of the electrical power generated in Bhutan is renewable by hydropower. The third reason is probably because our economy we are very mindful of how our economy grows. We try to keep it as sustainable as possible. It's still small, perhaps too small. Indeed, it is too small. But it is the small economy that does not release too much greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. The fourth reason is our population. So our country is almost 40,000 square kilometers, the size of Switzerland. But we have only 750,000 people living in our country. So a small population, and the pressures on the environment are much lower, and the amount of greenhouse gases we emit should be lower. Number 5, and I think this is the most important reason, is enlightened leaderships. Our successive monarchs have refused to allow outright, unbridled economic growth without taking into consideration the effects and the impact we have on our environment. A very relevant example is forests. In the 1970s, 1960s, our king probably was advised by international consultants to harvest our forests to generate revenue so that we can offer healthcare and education to our people. But he didn't. He took the more difficult paths of educating our people, providing healthcare gradually, and growing our economy also gradually, so that today we enjoy the benefits of those difficult policies. We need to be mindful. We need to exercise mindfulness. We need to be more aware of the state of the world, state of our planet, state of our home. And we need to understand, acknowledge the dangers of climate change and the consequences of climate change. I also believe each one of us needs to be compassionate, because climate change hits us differently. It may not affect me directly, but it'll affect people in distant lands, distant people in distant lands. And we need to have the compassion about their sorrows and their difficulties. But more importantly, we need to be compassionate about unborn generations, future generations. We may be dead and gone, but they have to inhabit the earth. And finally, we need to be courageous. Each and every one of us must exercise courage in our own little way to fight climate change. Whether it is in our own homes, in our community, or in our nation. We have to exercise courage to do what's right for our future generations.